electing these officials who are going to be willing to partner with us, right? And people have a hard time enough figuring out who to vote for president or senator. And then you get down to the bottom of the ballot, you're like 30 people deep. And either you're just going down the ballot and voting one way, or sometimes you're not even finishing your ballot because you're voting for one or two and then you're done, right? How, it's very overwhelming. And your org came up with the toolkit, which we're going to post in our link. If you're listening to this later, it will be on betheones.org. And the toolkit really helps you figure out how to qualify candidates through the reproductive justice framework. Can you talk a little bit about that and share insight on what folks should be looking for, especially for the candidates who don't touch on the topic, who may not have taken a stance at all, and who may be even quiet strategically because they're worried about losing the larger, picture? How do we navigate that landscape?
Yeah, it can be really tricky, to be able to vet candidates, especially when they won't speak on the issue. But what we like to talk about are different proxies and ways you can gauge whether or not they are likely reproductive justice champions, or at least, supporters of the issues that we care about when we vote. So just a quick rehash: reproductive justice, right, is a framework. It's the right to bodily autonomy, the right to have children, to not have children, and to parent those children in safe and sustainable communities. It was developed by a group of Black women in 1994 who really wanted a framework that spoke to the intersectionality of their lives. And so we hold that when we think about these parameters for identifying candidates. So one thing is to look for red flags. Like a reproductive justice champion, they are not anti-LGBTQ, right? They are not tough on crime. They are not looking to put more money into policing or into jailing. They're not anti-birth control. They're obviously not anti-abortion. They're also not anti-union, right? And they're interested in environmental justice, right? Because that comes down to our ability to parent and live in safe communities. So if they're an incumbent, it can be a little bit easier, right? So if they've already been in office, you can look at their voting record. That should be publicly accessible. You can also look at where they're allocating money. A lot of being an elected official is building budgets, and money talks, right? So where you put your money is where your values are. So are they investing in schools? Are they investing in public health? Are they investing in menstrual products, right? So we can have menstrual equity. So looking at where they're putting their money and where they're not putting their money is really important. And it's also important to look at what they've done with the time outside of being an elected official or running for office. So what kind of work do they do in community? Who are they in relationship with? What are their lived experiences? Like, do they really understand what is important to you and your communities? And at a guttural, instinctual level, are they going to be able to make decisions and vote based on those lived experiences and relationships that they already hold? So those are some of the things we talk about looking at. And of course, it can take a little bit of digging, but it can also be helpful to look at organizations you trust and kind of how, if they are a C4 and are able to endorse candidates, who they are talking about and think are, most likely to champion their work.